Hello and very good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Syed Fardino Omar, and I am your host. Today, we are going to be talking about marketing and advertising. Our webinar today is entitled Marketing in the Dark, Making Your Adbucks Work for You in a Crisis. And we've got a lineup of very interesting speakers for you, and here they are. Well, you know, the typical challenges of working from home. Welcome to day one of MCO 2.0/Darurat. I'm sure everybody is finding themselves in a situation which is totally unfamiliar in a certain way, because you'll probably be thinking, wait, hold on, we've done this before. We've gone through an MCO before, and all of a sudden we're in it again. And we thought that 2020 is going to be different, but, you know, in reality, 2021 is a little bit of, you know, a repetition of what we faced early on last year. So we want to understand a little bit about what are the things that companies can do when they find themselves, you know, in a situation like where we are right now. You have products that you want to sell, and you've got goods or services that you feel can go out to the market, but unfortunately, the market itself is completely uncertain. So how does one do this? So we've got a very interesting conversation that is going to be taking place right here with you, so do stick with us. We want to make sure that you have the best ever webinar experience. So do pay attention to this hygiene video right now, this is going to ensure that you have the most optimum webinar experience with us here at Astro Awani Link. Welcome to Astro Awani Link's brand new webinar platform designed to enhance your experience. A couple of hygiene points. We recommend that you shut down other video and audio tabs to clear up your bandwidth for a better experience. Should you experience any technical difficulties such as lag or interruptions, please click on the red reconnect button. If there is a major glitch that is experienced by a majority of the people in the room, we may reset the entire system. Just sit back and relax. You will be taken to a new room automatically. If you have a question you would like to ask the speakers, kindly mark your remark as a question. And finally, we would appreciate it if you could tell us what you think of your webinar experience. Do give us a 5-star rating if you like the session, and write to us via the contact us form on our website. Right, welcome back. Right, so now let's get this ball on the road. Like I said, we've got a very interesting line of people. So if I could invite Mr. Nicholas Day, Bala, and also Riyad to turn on your cameras and your microphones right now. We are ready to go and get this conversation going. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Very good morning to you.
Thanks for the invite.
Morning.
Morning.
We've got a good mix of people working from home, aka Bala and also Nick, I can see, and we've got Riyad, you know, playing frontliner for us today, being in the office, ensuring that flights are still there and nobody is trapped in whatever place that they are in right now. Riyad, thank you so much for joining us.
Most welcome. Thank you for the invite.
Okay, so just two things that I want to say before we get this ball on the road. As you know, if this is a working from home situation, there are bound to be things that does not go to plan. So if in any case, either my or your internet connection is playing up, there is a, like what it says in the hygiene button, in the hygiene video just now, there should be a reconnect button on your screen. So just go ahead and do that. And I will also do the same, because I think right now, the internet company is not being a friend of mine. I'm seeing videos lagging in front of me. But also, because I'm working from home, you three gentlemen will have to wrestle for attention, you know, my attention versus my 6 cats in the house. So if in case any of them suddenly pounces in front of the screen, I apologize up in advance. But, you know, the realities of being a cat father. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a very simple question. It's going to be the exact same question I'm going to be asking all three of you, and perhaps you could take turns in answering them. We'll start with Nick, and then we'll go to Riyadh, and then we'll end up with Bala. My first question is going to be super simple. What was 2020 like for you, and what were your key learnings for your organization, Nick?
Okay, thanks, Dino. Firstly, thank you for inviting me as well to share the experience that we had. I think from the organization's point of view, Astro, a couple of learnings that we had. I think the first one was people, because people were locked down, I think people were looking for content. And I think, unfortunately, I think none of us were prepared in terms of a lot of companies were not prepared. We had contents that lasted for a period of time. And when the MCO continued, was when it kept getting extended, I think one of the major challenges we had was that, where do we get more contents so that we could keep Malaysians entertained? So one of the things that we've experienced was, I think, in that sense, content limitations. Another thing that we also realized was that clients could not produce new commercials, right? I think LPF, there was limitation in terms of production. Client could not go out to shoot. Production houses were not allowed to shoot. So clients were stuck with old communications. Although clients would have to pivot and change their business, I think there were a lot of clients that wanted to have new messages that was being sent, but I think there was a limitation that we had as well. So I think that's the second thing we realized. In a bigger scale, we had also customers that, because they were locked down at home, they wanted entertainment. Astro could not really go into homes because of the SOPs. We had limitations in terms of accessing the homes to install Astro as well. So this was some immediate changes that we had to quickly pivot our business and really adapt to. So that's, I think, basically in a nutshell, that's what happened for us in the first MCO.
Right. So in other words, very, 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 very challenging situations that we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
Riyadh,
Yep.
Must be a very interesting question for you.
It's always interesting. I mean, you can plan as much as you want to. I mean, be the most agile organization and whatnot. But I think in 2020, we faced something that is an anomaly of sorts. And I'm not just speaking from the airline industry, but from all industries, I believe, like Nick pointed out. We can prepare as much as we want, have the reserves and whatnot, but it is a lesson taught that I don't think anyone was prepared for. But that being said, I think we've come out of it much stronger. It has given us a point of reflection, also to look into other areas that we are actually good at and maybe enhance certain areas. One thing that we did realize on the fact that, yes, we had lesser people flying, we had so many challenges with regards to regulatory, borders being shut, so on and so forth. But other areas that were under our tutelage or even under our umbrella, such as our digital transformation, we extended, new lines of businesses. You now see us delivering food, selling food. We have restaurants. So on.
More importantly, we see Tony's delivering food.
Yes, he actually did it. So I was more worried because he was riding on a bicycle in all the most busiest roads and whatnot. And, I think there's some risk factors that we needed to take care. But, that being said, again, being who we are, and I think Air Asia is pretty prominent when it comes to this, is adjusting. And we did adjust. We managed situation where it deemed fit for us to be better. In terms of the airline operations, it is as per normal, believe it or not. Even though you don't fly as many planes and many passengers, you still have to maintain the safety aspects, the operational aspects of it, so on and so forth. But extending our capabilities in other areas gives us some form of comfort. So, those new businesses that we've extended out into, we are continuously enhancing it. In fact, now we have our super app that controls almost everything on the face of AirAsia's ecosystem. I think was one of the lessons that we realized and needed to be done quickly. So 2020 obviously pushed us a bit more than what we thought we had more time on, but I think the results are there. And 2021 is something that we are now embracing cautiously, obviously. Optimistically, I sit here looking at the future being better, but it's something that we just take over from 2020, bring it into 2021.
Well, it's very interesting that we're gonna, look deeper into this, because one of the reasons why we reached out to AirAsia is because, from our perspective, I'm sure this is a sentiment that is shared by a lot of people. You guys probably had to take a very, very big hit simply because top of mind, AirAsia is an airline and nobody could fly. So I'm sure we're going to go deeper into this to understand your pivoting exercises and. Especially when you pivot, how do you then tell people that you pivoted? So we want to understand that a little bit more. But before I go to Bala, I just have one question that this is coming from the little boy in me. So I want to ask this. So, if it's a car and you don't start lama, you might probably have problem cranking it up. I'm the host of India, so in my head it's always going to be automotive. But what about a plane? What happens when you don't start a plane for a long time?
No, I think as I mentioned earlier, even though we don't fly the planes, we still need to maintain it as though we are flying it.
So you crank it up?
Yes, we have to crank it up every 2 days, 3 days. My engineers will go in, we'll stick the GPU in, and then we'll start the engines. But not only that, we actually have to look into all the pitons, make sure there are no insects. And it's pretty infamous now that you find birds nesting or, snakes or whatever it may be. We are in a bit of the wild west here. But rest assured, again, whatever you see in terms of machinery and aircrafts and whatnot, we have to maintain it as though we are actually utilizing it on a daily basis. So it's pretty interesting. The little boy in me obviously asked the same question because, I'm going like, okay, so we're parking 90 aircrafts. What are we going to do with it? You can't just sit there. So I got a full rundown on what happens and whatnot. So I'm very comforted with my team managing it, and we are always on the ready to fly. That I think is the part that we are ready for at any moment's notice.
And being AirAsia, your planes are on the air all the time, in the air all the time. So, that's that'll be really interesting to understand a little bit more later.
Sure.
Bala, over to you now, 2020. Now, from your perspective, it'll be interesting because you have an overview of all the companies that you have in your portfolio. So you will have an understanding of who spent, who did not spend, what did they spend on, and what were the key learnings from an agency perspective also.
Yeah, I think firstly, I'll start off with ourselves. I think 2020 was a year of resilience for us. We had to almost overnight make 400 people move from office to home. And that was quite an interesting exercise. I must say that I was actually quite surprised as to how people adapted so quickly. Which means that in the face of adversity, right, I think people have the ability to really do what they need to do. And that allowed us to operate almost on a normal basis. I think we could do everything that we did in the office. Some of our creative people brought back their iMacs and whatnot so that they can do work from home. The only area where we would have maybe had some issues for a short while was in the area of producing new content, because outdoor production was not allowed, so that took a bit of a hit. But other than that, I think we literally were able to do everything from home. If I were to look at the industry in general, of course, there are certain categories like the airlines, like real estate, hotels, etc. Those industries had a much bigger hit. But on the overall basis, I think we as we were tabulating the numbers, we think there was like a 20% drop in terms of spend in 2020. But we are expecting this to grow by about 15% in 2021. So we will grow this year, but maybe not to the same levels as we were last year. But again, right, this is also dependent on how long the new MCO will last, and what are the follow-up phases that will follow the current MCO. So the shorter the MCO is, the better it is, because the moment people are out they can buy things, they can use services, and that allows business to circulate, and that will allow advertisers to spend as well. So I think that's where we are.
Just to throw a little bit of something in there. You said that the moment people go out, people can actually go ahead and spend, and therefore companies will be able to turn things around and then promote their stuff. But home shopping, online shopping is also a very big thing now. So do we have an understanding of how companies have pivoted their operations to allow for services and homes and goods to be delivered to homes, and how are they communicating it out there? Are they doing things to tell people, hey, continue shopping?
Definitely, because if you look at the incidence of home shopping, it has gone up dramatically. And this is again, right, I think the fundamentals of marketing will stay the same. The fundamentals of how we will do advertising will stay the same. But now we have to layer that with a whole new level of distribution strategies. And I think this is where e-commerce comes in, and all the various companies that are doing distribution of goods and services come in. And that has grown exponentially in the last year.
Okay, so going on to my second question, again, is going to be the same thing. I'm going to be asking a blanket question for the three of you, and this is going to be a slightly more interesting one. What did you think going into 2021, but was quickly debunked by the MCO and the Darurat, and we find ourselves back in square one, literally day one of MCO. So it's again the quick change. Nick, over to you first.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'm going to just maybe share from the slides that I had. So Amy, if you could help me put out the slides, I'm just going to share based on that, right? So basically, I think what I'm going to share, it's basically the learnings that we had from MCO1. I think these were some of the very key learnings that we had. And definitely these key learnings would be what's going to bring us into this MCO 2.0, I'll call it MCO 2.0. So the first thing that we did was we understand businesses was challenged. A lot of company was, going through challenges. I think like Bala was saying, distribution was a challenge, their costs going up because suddenly from the retail being a physical retail, that is not very relevant anymore. They have to find new ways of distribution. Yep. So I think ASU was one of the companies that came out first to say, hey, you know what? For every dollar that you spend, we're going to support you with 20% free credits, right? So whether it's on the radio or TV, became guys, we're going to help you subsidize in a way, subsidize to make it more affordable to have continuous voice, because we know when people were locked down, people were watching a lot more TV. So we knew that we had a very important and responsible role to play. So that was the first thing that I did. Second thing that we did was we also realized, like I think I mentioned earlier, if you go to the next slide, Amy, people were watching a lot of content, right? And happy to share, this was the first movie, right, that made it to 7 million ringgit in terms of ticket collection. Well, not ticket collection, but gross collection without the, cinemas. I think previously movies were always, the revenue for movies was always driven by cinemas. But this was the first movie without the physical cinema. This movie managed to collect about 7 million. So we knew people were watching, wanting for content. And, I don't mind sharing with you that the production cost for this movie was not, hey, Kat, was not big, right?
Nice.
So what happened was, I think the producer actually spent maybe about 10% of what he actually got in return. All right, so I think maybe at some point we started questioning in terms of quality of production. Do we need to still invest the same kind of quality, right, or same kind of investment? So that's something that we also review. So people are looking for content, and I think based on the third learnings that we had, we knew that agencies and clients had challenges in terms of producing new content. So we came up with this solution. If you go to the next slide, Amy, this solution allows client to really activate their new messaging on the spot. I think within a day, we produced this new solution. So we call it the lower third. So clients could communicate, using the bottom lower third of the screen to communicate new messages. And we did it free of charge. The production was practically free. And we had a quick turnaround time. So one of the things that we quickly adapted or introduced to the market was we told clients, hey, you know what? We know the challenges you're going through. This is something that we have. We had this going through all our talk shows. And Awani being the most watched, I think, news channel at a point of time, because everybody was waiting for the next announcement. What's going to happen after 2 weeks? What's going to happen in terms of the numbers of COVID? Where are we at, right? So Awani being at the forefront of that whole situation, we leverage on in terms of the eyeballs that was, going to watch Awani. So these were some of the things that I think key learnings that we're taking from MCO 1.0. Definitely, we're going to be trying to improve. We have already the basics of it. Soon, in a couple of days, we'll be announcing, I think, to the market what we're going to be doing for MCO 2.0. So we are already in the works, working things out.
So Nick, so that means if we're taking this as an example, so clearly you have taken your learnings from 1.0 and you're adapting it and implementing it in 2.0. But prior to, let's say, last week, right? Yes, we saw the number of cases climbing and all that, but nobody could really answer with a degree of certainty that we are going to go into an MCO. Same again, very few people suspected that there was going to be a darurat, and what it actually means to the people is still, up for debate at the moment. So, I want to understand from an AMS perspective. I am sure at some point when we exited 2020, there must have been plans that says, okay, now we're going into 2021. Hopefully things will get better, and therefore we will have bigger plans that we want to go into. But then now we've gone back to MCO. So you could quickly grab what you worked on in MCO 1.0 and brought into 2.0. But what happens to those big plans? So do we shelve it? And if it is indeed shelved, what do we then tell the clients and tell the advertisers that says, all right, we're coming on to Astro in 2021, but then now because of the MCO, hold on a second. How does that work?
Yeah. I think those ideas that we have planned, whether it's the big campaigns or even key signatures, content that would really what our subscribers or our viewers are looking for, those plans are still in place, right? I think it's just being probably delayed a little bit, all right? But what we have done with some of the ideas that we had, those big plans, we had to repivot again. So instead of, for example, every Chinese New Year, we would have line dance, or we would have visits to the house together with our celebrities. Now we would have to rethink, how do we bring the same experience, but without it being physical, for example. So those plans that we had provided a very good basis for us, because we knew in the past what worked, but now with the condition that we are in, we just have to rethink and repivot. How do we change right away? So those plans are still in place. We're still keeping it, hopefully, for the next quarter two or the second half. But definitely those ideas that we think we can change, we are repivoting to serve during this period of time.
It's like mahjong lah, just shuffling things about to find the best solution that works.
Correct.
So, okay, so publisher can pivot quickly. I want to understand from a client perspective, Bala and Riyad. So are clients susceptible to quick pivots, just like how publishers are? Perhaps Bala, you want to take this first before we go to Riyad?
Yeah, I think, okay, so firstly, before we go to the client, I think on our end itself, we have been prepping to work from home till end of this year. As part of the new normal, and also planning for a next normal, which could see a very different way of us doing work. So I think what's important is that everyone, be it client, be it agency, be it media owner, has to be agile and adaptive. So like in this case, right, I think with the cases going up, are we really surprised that there is another MCO? I don't think that it's too much of a surprise for anyone. So I think in this situation, we would already have multiple different possible plans that can be activated depending on what the outcome is. So a different plan could be activated if there was no MCO. A different plan will be activated with MCO because the rules of engagements are different, and perhaps the way we communicate with consumers will also be different. So, which is why I will go back to the fact that I think in these times and days, adaptability and being able to change really quickly is really, really critical.
Ria, again, this is definitely going to be super interesting for you because, like, for example, Chinese New Year is around the corner. Normally, you probably already be banging on about, dah lah, your posters are already red. Now it's going to be even more red because Chinese New Year around the corner. So you would have, special fairs for Chinese New Year and all that. And then suddenly there's, an uncertainty. Just 2 days ago, I was scrolling Instagram and I saw, this is literally the day before MCO was announced. I saw a 3 days, 2 nights package for Club Med in Cherating, and the price was like super low. Had I clicked on it, I would have been poorer, but nowhere to go right now. So again, this is something that needs very, very fast reactions from an airline company.
Correct.
How do you, first of all, keep your sanity, but secondly, ensure that you can still run the business?
First, I don't think I can assure you my sanity at the moment, but from that perspective, I guess the keywords have been brought across. Adibala brought up very clearly agility and adaptivity, and that's something that AirAsia has embraced from day one. And the learnings of 2020, it taught us a lot. What can we do? When's the right time to do it? So on and so forth. After a while, it falls into a pattern of sorts. And as much as we didn't want an MCO from a business perspective, but we were also expecting the possibility because yes, the cases were rising, so on and so forth. There were concerns, so on and so forth. And when it was announced, to be honest, we immediately got back to our plan B and executed accordingly. Just like I mentioned, yesterday, we were looking at all our aircrafts to make sure that people could be flown back because a lot of passengers suddenly showed up at the airport and said, I want to go home now because I can't risk Friday, for example, right? So we've accommodated all these wants and needs to make sure that our passengers are taken care of, so on and so forth. But it means that the team that you have, the structure that you have, the organization that you have must always be on the ready. We are blessed by the fact that we have the people. We are also blessed by the fact that we've planned this in many, many forms with so many permutations that all we need to do is actually just pick which one. And I think I like that. I have cats at home. Right? I'm all right.
And I have this. This is my weapon against noises from cats. Guys!
It's okay. But, going back to the situation that we're faced right now, we're now in MCO 2.0. We've adjusted the necessary in terms of operations. But as I mentioned much earlier, the other businesses that we have, now we'll be focusing on those businesses. We'll be focusing on our food business. We'll be looking at delivery. In fact, we're promoting it now immediately with free deliveries, within a certain kilometer radius, so on and so forth. So as an organization, the job that we have is to be adjusting to the situation, must be agile enough, adaptive enough, then we can survive.
Okay. Let me interject there, and I have a question. So normally, under normal circumstances, companies would normally already lock their budgets for specific campaigns and also for specific periods. First half of the year, first quarter of the year, there's this to spend on, and then that to spend on. So when you're talking about agility here, you obviously have to change your focus. So does that mean that the marketing budget that AirAsia has for 2021 is kept fluid? Does this mean that you are not committing yourself to any campaigns per se, because you will then have to make quick decisions on moving from, okay, now we sell airline tickets, then we sell food delivery?
Correct.
Is that how it works?
Yes. I think from our side, I think we've kept it fluid enough. But this is also working with partners. The partners that we have, like you guys on the screen here as well. A lot of people have adapted to it to the point that we are now much more agile or more flexible in many, many ways. So Bala will have clients that will say, look, I have this budget, but I can't do it now because it's not the right time to promote this. But can you work out something else? So everyone will have a plan of sorts. But I think more importantly, this is the time that actually everyone's got together. In my experience, to be honest, this last 1 year, of course, we've got some partners and some partners that are actually working very closely with us to make sure that everything is adaptive, can be changed at the last minute. You're right. I mean, again, we were preparing for a campaign to push our domestic sales. Until yesterday, we've now have to shelve that. So obviously, whatever expenditures that I have for that is now going to be parked aside, and now we're going to pull the other budget, which is supposed to be planned for food, for delivery, so on and so forth. Now bring that up earlier, and then we run that program instead of the other. So I think it's important not just from a client's perspective, but the partners that we have, for example, we are all in it together right now. So I think understanding each other, adapting to each other, and actually helping out each other, I think is the most crucial bit. And I see that in Astro very much also in terms of what you've offered and also what you do for your clients as well. So I think it's just a matter of understanding the situation together, not in silos. Because if you start working in silos, it's impossible to sort out anything.
Again, an interesting point that you brought up there. And I want to pick up from what Nick and Bala said earlier. And this is about producing new content is very challenging. It's very difficult to do. And we're not just talking about the actual content, but also we're talking about marketing content here, advertising, new advertisements, LPF and all that was mentioned just now. So we cannot do that, or rather it's quite a challenge to do that. So how do we work around it? That's question number one. And, perhaps Bala and also Nick can answer this on top of what Riyadh can say, but also specifically for Riyadh. So, when we're talking about producing new content, a lot more companies are looking internally to actually produce the content right now. So for AirAsia, for example, if you're talking about flights, there are the flights that you do commercially, but then there are the public service things that you guys do, for example, flying for Banjir and all that. So whilst that may not be, the communication of it may not be the main objective, maybe the actual Nawaitu is actually to go and help people, but in a certain way, that is still content creation that works towards your company. Yes. So how does that work? So maybe we will go to Riyadh first, answer that, and then we will go to Nick and Bala and talk about content creation. What is the work around it?
I think one of the benefits that maybe AirAsia has right now or has always had is the fact that most of our contents are actually created internally. The challenge is not creating the content. The challenge is the accessibility and the ability to do so nowadays. Just like the MCO 2 now is in place, clients or we are limited on where we can do our shoots or where we can make our content, so on and so forth. But from an organization's point of view, we can create content as best as we can. I think people are forgiving to a certain degree if you create content with, for example, cats around us, so on and so forth. But it's the norm. You can't be perfect. But most of the contents, and I take this guy, the American guy that with ocean spray, and then next thing you know, is now the talk of the world of how life can be as easy, even though in the toughest times. But there's no real quality. You're not going to get the color saturation or the lighting, so on and so forth. But I think people are very acceptable when it comes to this. If you look at most of the content you see on the social media aspect, and some actually trickling in terms of maybe the quality of sorts into the TV advertisements, so on and so forth, it's not as accurate as what I remember my days in Proton was. When the car needs to be shown in its 3/4 and the tires must spin in at a certain color and type, so on and so forth. People are not particular. The more important bit is what are we messaging out there? What are we telling the passengers, for example, in my case? Or what am I telling to potential customers that want to buy food from Santan? So it's basic stuff that needs to be out there. Reminders. I'm not saying quality shouldn't be there, but I think people are much more forgiving nowadays.
So nowadays it's much more function over form, whereas last time they would probably pay a lot of attention. So you don't really need to have, the kuda and the drummers during
I can go as far back as Dunhill and Salem High Country and all that, right? Where it was beautiful and, even though it's shot in Cameron, it looks like it's in New Zealand, so on and so forth. I think now it's more content, and more of getting people involved. I think that's the crucial bit. We get people involved, not just us just pushing the message. We have to get others involved. And in fact, internally, because of the ability, or maybe I don't want to say the cliche word of influencers and all that, but even we have our own people that have multiple millions of followers and whatnot. So we tend to work within our system as well to get the message out.
The workaround when it comes to producing new content. So Riyad has given us a perspective there. Bala, over to you.
Yeah, so I feel that producing live content is just one approach. And as what Riyad has said, there are many different approaches. There's a lot of stock footages that can be used. We can use other techniques which are purely graphics driven, for example. What is most important is that the messaging is clear. We are reaching the right audiences on the right platform, so that there are tangible results that the clients can achieve. So I think even for us, we didn't really suffer too much in terms of not being able to produce commercials for clients. It's just that we had to take a very different approach in terms of how they are produced. And we have full capabilities to do those things.
Give us a little bit of an example of these different approaches that you're talking about.
For example, you can have still footages. You can use influencers, as what Riyad said, where you don't really need to shoot content. They are very easily producible. Even going back to the old example of Dunhill, right? If you remember the Dunhill ads, they were actually just stills. It was stills, and then the camera just pans across it.
Exactly, man.
And that worked quite well, I think. I mean, it's very, very. I still remember those ads because of the level of frequency.
Hey, don't say too much. Our age is coming out now. Our age is coming out clearly.
So I think I don't think there is. I think again, right? This is going back to adapting to the new situation and the new needs that we need to fulfill. So I don't think we should be using the excuse of not being able to cut live content as a reason not to advertise and communicate.
Nick, you're
Right. Yeah. Okay. So talking about live content, I just want to comment a bit about the live content. I think from our experience, live content has tremendous chemistry, right? So I think if you look at how a lot of reality shows are being run with judges and stuff with the real audience, that really gave us a lot of it made quite a difference, right, in terms of people's engagement and stuff like that. So unfortunately with MCU we can't do that anymore, right? So I think one point to Bala's point is that it's really important if we could have when we could shoot those live content where we can go out and shoot was really, really helpful, I think, because people were looking at it. So I think on Astro's side, what we tried to do was, in fact, we had done is that we have set up a green screen studio, all right, and we named her Arvina, right? So so we'll be introducing Arvina to everybody really soon. And what this really allows us to do is that because it's a green screen, we just need probably one person to operate a camera, which is actually a single camera production. But because of the technology that sits behind it, whatever that comes out looks like a multiple camera production, right? I'm gonna have, I think I have a slide. I think Amy could get ready to show the slide number 7. I'm just gonna show you how the studio can look like. So it's really a small studio, but it gives you that depth. It gives you that bigness, for advertisers. So we have invested in that studio. We're gonna make it available, I think, for advertisers, agencies, and stuff like, because we know if just like MCO 1.0, we couldn't go and shoot. But if we are in an enclosed area with proper SOPs, with limited, tools, we are able to do that.
100 pemenang bertuah yang akan bersama-sama dengan Harry untuk kita ucapkan tahniah kepada juara kita pada malam ini, RM50,000. Tahniah kepada Lim Wei Cheng.
Very happy ya, duit banyak.
All right, thanks, Amy. So there was a snippet of Arvina, right? So this is one. What happened was, again, I'm going to talk about Hada Lobo. During the MCO 2.0, so Hada Lobo came to us, which I think was one of Bala's clients, came to say, hey, you know what? We're going to celebrate our 10th anniversary. It's a lockdown. What can we still do? So in my early stage, we actually produced a music video for the client. And to compensate for the quality, I wouldn't say even compensate, but I think what Ria was saying, the engagement and getting our customers involved. What we did was we gamified the music video. Within the music video, we had 40 clues, 40 brands was hidden. So what we told people was that, tell us how many times you will see a brand or a product throughout this whole music video. So we kind of gamify it. And then it led up to the game show that we just saw the video. And that game show was actually shot in a very small studio, but with green screen. And because of technology, it looked really, really big, right? Yeah. So that is what we did in terms of, trying to change as well. We're trying to tell clients that he was still able to do content. Yes, we will not have live audiences, or we will not have, the outdoor experience, but we still can have certain content produced so we can, get the customers involved. And happy to say, I think this campaign worked really well. According to the client, they were sharing with us, during this lockdown, the first lockdown, their business grew by 12%, right? When their competitors were down by 15%. So we're really happy with this campaign that we were able to help Hada Lobo with.
So as a publisher, we are basically innovating the way we deliver the thing. I mean, I completely understand the content that you just showed. Because I have watched, we've been working from home since God knows when. I can't remember. I don't know what year it is. So I've watched everything. So now I have turned my attention to watching content from other parts of Southeast Asia. I am completely hooked on Thai content, so much so that I can speak, read and write Thai already. But the Thais, they do their showcases and their concerts the exact same way Nicholas just showed us just now. And it's amazing because, you've got a full-on show, and I pay 150 ringgit to watch these concerts from my living room, when otherwise, I would be paying. So, there's money to be made there. But, now let's look at things from the perspective of a small business owner. When you're creating content now, we have to create multiple different types of content. That's the reality of it, because as we go into the age of digitalization and digitization, we can target and we can do all that. So I want to bring this question up from one of our attendees right now. Wing has asked a question over here. So Amy, if you could just pull it up. The question is, with the advent of e-commerce and coming off the cookieless digital ecosystem, how will advertising be more focused in targeting? Will there be more partnerships for data? What are the challenges? So we want to look at targeting and creating content that is going to be specifically for specific groups of people. As a small business owner, you also need to produce content, because you cannot rely on whatever it is that you probably just your Instagram page. You actually have to create content. So what do we tell people about the current trends that we understand pertaining particularly to the smaller guys out there? What is the kind of content that they should be creating? Perhaps Bala will have a better understanding and overview of this.
Yeah, so I think whether they are small or whether they are big, go back to the fundamentals. Firstly, we need to identify, what is it that you want to sell. We need to identify who is it that we are targeting. And the old way of doing things was very much more mass, as in like you target a large group of people and you hope that some of them will convert. But I think the new way of identifying high value audiences allows us to be much more precise. We have tools that allow us to know who's watching the ad, who's not watching the ad. Are they converting? Are they not? Can we send them a new message? Can we retarget them? So there are many different ways, especially on the digital platforms, that we can analyze data and we can make much more informed decisions. And this is applicable even for the smaller advertisers, because a lot of these MarTech tools are actually free as well. There are a whole suite of Google tools that are free. Anybody can use them. They just need to train themselves. And that will allow them to have a much better understanding of their consumers. I think that is like the most important thing. Really understand your consumers. Then you will know how to reach them effectively and where to advertise so that you get the best conversion.
Okay, but right now, I want to go right into the middle of it. The main thing that we're trying to address here, we're telling people, okay, this is how you should be parking your budget, the advertising budget for the year 2021, because the future ahead is still unclear.
Okay, I'll take this.
Yeah, I was about to say, because I can say all sorts of stuff too. So
Actually, I mean, I think, even in the current MCO, depending on your product category, that you may actually want to spend even more, because if there's a huge uptake of your product, like for example, e-commerce retailers, Lazada, Foodpanda, Grab, and all these guys, this is a great time for you to increase advertising, because your products and services are hugely in demand. Having said that, even for other clients, I think look at where audiences are increasing. Like, I would believe that audiences have actually increased across TV platforms and even radio for that matter, because we are staying more at home. And this is an opportunity to build equity ahead of better times coming forward.
I agree with you, but at the end of the day, for me, more from a general perspective, right? It doesn't mean that in a current state like this, we stop or we reduce advertising. I think the key is the brand's existence, right? And no matter what you sell out there, if it's not known, it'll be tough for a business to sustain itself. So we still need to do what is necessary in many forms. Now, be it TV, radio, social media, or even billboards. I mean, Asia we still have billboards out there. We have not taken them down, because we feel that it's as important in terms of continuous, reminders of our existence to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Okay, but then what about for SMEs? If you how do you? Yeah, sorry.
I mean, again, just from where I left off, and I think Bala pointed out very correctly. Again, the situation depends on your need. Do you need to be known out there, for your products to be known, to be enticed upon, so on and so forth? Any situation, it could be the worst of the economies right now, and if you do not put enough presence out there, you will fail in terms of getting your product known or sold. So I think it's a balance. Don't get me wrong, don't spend unnecessarily, but I think you can select your media, you can do the necessary rotations, make sure that it's all planned out correctly and whatnot. But to say that just because we're in an MCO, we shouldn't advertise or reduce too much, I'm one do not agree to that in that sense.
That's true. Sorry?
No, I just wanted to share one of the observations that we had. I mean, from Astro's point of view as a media owner, we saw an increasing trend, I think, from people who has pivoted to the online business. I think like what Bala rightly said in the beginning, those clients that has sorted out their distribution, we saw them increasing their spends a lot more. So I think the likes of Foodpanda, I think, which Bala has already mentioned, we saw KFC, who was already ready to do their deliveries for their lunch and all their value meals. I think we saw the increase in that segment as well. So I think for those clients who has pivoted and were ready in terms of e-commerce, their distribution sorted out, we saw them actually spending increasing a lot more on radio and TV, or even on digital.
We wanna understand a little bit about apportioning your budget. Okay, apportioning your budget when it comes to marketing in 2021. It's much easier if you know what to expect, but when we do not know how to expect, is the safe way to work is by allocating a certain percentage for every quarter? This is just thinking from a very simple business owner perspective. Yeah, do we allocate a certain percentage for every quarter, and therefore use that money in that quarter to promote whatever it is that you can promote? And if you find yourself in a situation where you did not or could not use that money up, you roll that money into the next quarter. Now, is that a good way of doing it? Or is there any other way of planning your budget?
I think you can have a plan. It's always important to have a plan, and all clients will do that in terms of what they think they will spend for the year. But executing the plan is a very different thing. I think it's very dependent on what is happening on the ground, and again, going back to the need to be fluid. So it doesn't mean that a budget that is set has got to be cast in stone. It could reduce, it could even increase because, if things have turned around for the better, or, like what Nick was saying earlier about distribution being fixed and clients are spending more. So I think, again, right, the important thing is to track, to learn, to measure success or measure learnings, to make sure that we are constantly improving what we are doing. And then from there, you will know whether you need to spend, or you don't need to spend, or you need to spend more in a particular platform, you need to reduce in a particular platform. There are so many different moving parts to it. The important thing is to be able to constantly track these things and make sure that the learnings are put back into the system so that you keep on improving.
Now, okay, can I understand a little bit? So when I took a year off from working in Awani in 2019. I went over to the UK to do my MBA. And in that time, I focused my attention on trying to understand how businesses can pivot digitally. So whilst I was doing that, I was looking at some of our numbers, the ADAX numbers in the country, to understand who is spending where. And from what I can see, even from 2 years ago, there is a very healthy and a strong attention being given to digital, to digital, and the number seems to be growing. Now, from choosing a platform perspective, I guess going digital is the simpler thing to do, because then you cut out a lot of the middlemen. A lot of companies can actually go ahead and spend directly either on SEO or even on banners and stuff like that. Now, do we see this number for digital growing even more, and the graph will grow even steeper now that we are in MCO, and access to other platforms is a little bit more difficult?
What we've seen across Malaysia as well as APAC as well as is that literally every other media platform has shown a decline in 2020. Digital was the only platform that was still growing, and of course, one of the benefits of digital is that you can have community campaigns, you can advertise in a very small geographical area rather than going on a national level or a regional level campaign, and that itself could be a booster for SME related advertisers, because they don't need to reach everyone. They can reach to the pockets that are important to them. So yes, and digital now accounts for more than 50% of spends pretty much everywhere in the world.
Riyad, so when you have something new to talk about, who do you go to first?
Well, we go to our internal social media platform. One of the lucky bits that we do have over the years is that we've accumulated up to about 24 million followers across our social media platform. So if anything at all we want to introduce or highlight immediately, that will be the immediate area that we will focus on. But that being said, then you have to work on other platforms as well. So there is a fine balance that we need to reach out to. I mean, we still advertise in newspapers as well, so on and so forth. But it's all about timing. It's all about accessibility. And when one wants to do something and educate or message out to our clients or our passengers per se.
And Nick, again, so for Astro, we are now no longer just TV, right? We are multi-platform.
Yeah.
When you go out to sell, how do you choose what to sell?
Well, I think besides the numbers, I think Bala, Riyad has covered. Digital gives us really, specific tracking and stuff like that. I think for us, Astro, I think content relevance is still very, very important for us. One of the things that we pride ourselves in is local content. As much as I think the fangs of this world, in the Facebook, the Google, the Netflix, and Amazon is taking on the world. One thing that we feel that they are not great at yet is knowing the local culture and the local nuances. With I think Astro, after 20 years of being a content provider, we know what Malaysian wants, right? And we can even drill down to what the Malay loves, what the Chinese loves, or what the Indian community loves. So I think, or whether from by location, for example. So the local nuances and the culture differences that makes Malaysian unique. I think it's something that Astro is really strong at. So if you look at whether it's from the movies that we produce to the dramas that we produce, or even the singing reality shows that we produce, we can proudly say that we know the local nuances that affects that makes that makes people like the local content. And we are quite fortunate that Malaysians still appreciate and love number one, our local celebrities. So especially the Malay celebrities in Malaysia does really, really well. The local content like our dramas and our movies does really, really well. So I think one of the unique position that we are in is we are able to understand the local culture, which means we become very relevant to them.
We've got a question that came in right now from Jeffrey. It's actually a fairly long question, but I'm interested in the very last part of that question. Amy, if you could bring that up. The question is, what are the metrics used to define success for your airline digital marketing? Riyad.
Well, one, I have probably about 50 to 70 people called data scientists. And that's what we do on a daily basis, is to manage our expectations and whatnot. But I think there are multiple metrics that we utilize, obviously from sales, even to demographics, so on and so forth. So what we are able to do with our data as we mine it is, I think, mentioned much earlier by Bala also. And then we get to target specifically, our clients or potential passengers that would want to go somewhere. And now we are utilizing it also on the other areas of the businesses, such as our food, our shop, Asia Fresh, so on and so forth. Because we now have habitual information that we can now utilize and entice. And that's where it's very important that whatever we do is to get the customers to engage with us. Engaging with us means there's some form of results coming out of it, whether it's a sales, whether it's word of mouth, positive information being shared around, so on and so forth, is something that we look at. And all this are based on data that we actually have.
So in other words, so for you guys, and I'm sure Bala can also shed light on this. So engagement is very important. But then if I remember correctly, when I was researching this, in the West particularly, the key deliverable that seems to be at the very tip of everybody's tongue is conversion. So here we are not quite there yet with conversion. We are still focusing on engagement per se and not actually looking specifically at how much each buck is converting people?
I think just to add to what I've described is that obviously there is a set target. So whatever we do in terms of data analytics, our then action to that also will churn out results in one form or the other. And we've done this. We've done this with some campaigns specifically. We introduced the SNAP program where you buy an airline ticket plus hotels. And I think we partnered with Berjaya Hotel in Langkawi. And the good example was we knew who to target, who to reach out to. And within 3 hours, we sold about 1,000 of those packages. So results are very important to us. We cannot ignore that. And I think all clients will still request that. I think Bala and Nick, at the end of the day, your clients will go to you and say, okay, if I put ringgit 1 million here, what am I getting out of this? And there'll be enough analytics behind that to convince me as a client that I'm putting my money at the right place. And I think we can never run away from the fact that results are just important, because you just cannot brand yourself and send things out and spend money on advertising and not realize any benefit out of it. I think that would be a challenge. In fact, if I did that personally, I wouldn't be in this seat at the moment.
Well, if people did that, Nick would be the happiest person ever, lah, because the deliverable is super low.
I'll lose my job. So,
Bala, do you want to add on to that, Bala?
Yeah. I just want to say that I think Asia is in a fantastic position because you've got such a huge database of existing customers, and the new trend is what's called a consumer data platform, where you can reach out to your own customers You can sell new products, you can cross-target, you can sell different products. Someone who's using the airline would be interested in in the products that Asia has. And there's so many opportunities to do that. And I think going back to an earlier question on a cookieless world, I think this will be the new way forward, as in like leveraging on data that you already have within your consumer pool.
Again, it's all falling back down to the pivoting and understanding how do we reach out to people, and how as publishers we can add value to both clients and also the lives of the audience and the attendees. So for example, if I can just use our own personal experience here, Astro Money Link was born because we saw that there is a very immediate need to pivot to digital. And the reason why this works very well for us as a publisher is because we understand that some products requires a little bit extra explanation, and it is not going to be able to be justified within, say, the space of a 30-second ad. So we see clients coming onto us because they appreciate the fact that a webinar such as this allows clients to explain further the benefits, the goods of the goods and the services that they're offering. So again, it is about understanding the requirement of the clients and trying to match that with the what can be fed to the people. We are, we've gone past our 1 hour mark now. So let's just wrap this up very quickly. We've actually got a lot of questions pouring in, but unfortunately we don't have enough time to answer all of them. But if I could end this session again with asking the exact same question to all three gents, and that would be a good place for us to launch pad ourselves into the unknown of day 2 of MCO and going forward. My question would be, okay, if there is one thing that businesses, big and small alike, should be focusing on right now when we're talking about marketing their goods and services, from your perspective, what would it be? We'll start with Riyad, and then we'll go to Bala and end up with Nick.
I think it's important to know what actually you're trying to get out there, right? I think it's the purpose of what you're doing on a daily basis. If you're selling fruits, you need to explain what you're selling, what you want out there to be sold. So I think it's crucial, no matter how big the company is or small the company may be, or even a household, that getting the message out through marketing is important, because without that, there is no chance, or maybe minimal chance, of getting growth in your objective. So I think no matter what it is, it needs to happen. We still need to message out. We still need to advertise our products or our wares in any form or manner. But it doesn't matter how big you go or how small at the moment. The more important bit right now is to do it, rather than not do it. Because if you don't do it, it just that's one part of marketing that you lose out in very very unfortunate way in that sense. But I believe that this webinar, I think, has given a lot of thoughts, even to me myself actually, on how people adjust to the current state and whatnot. But the encouragement I would want to give out to everyone out there is that don't stop pushing your product, don't stop advertising, and just use the right, or choose the right methods to do so, according to your budget. Be agile, be adaptive to the situation, and all the best, I guess, from that point.
Okay, true. Bala, over to you.
Yep. So I feel that whether you're a big advertiser or you're an SME or a small advertiser, more than ever, right, it's really important that you have a robust marketing plan, because that allows you to look at the situation. It allows you to look at what are all the possibilities or what are all the barriers, and it really helps you prepare more effectively in terms of how you can go to market. Apart from that, again, as I've said earlier, I think it's really important more than ever to be adaptive and agile, so that you can pivot very quickly if the situation changes, etc. And lastly, exercise where possible and stay healthy, because in this situation, right?
Yeah,
I think it's really important for us to stay as healthy as possible.
Stay safe.
Stay safe, stay healthy, so that we have a better chance of avoiding the virus or recovering much faster if you get.
On that note, I just have to say, 2 days ago when we were going through the SOPs, and then they were saying very, very clearly, when you go out jogging, please ensure that you have a 2-meter distance between you. Do these people think that we jog, pegang tangan, is it, before this?
I have no problems with the 2 meter because I'm not fast. I'll be left behind anyway. So.
Right. Okay, Nick, over to you. And I believe that we've got the SME 360 offers tab already. So maybe, Nick, you want to talk a little bit about that as well, please.
Yeah, so before I go into the SME tab, I think I just want to also just re-emphasize this point, right? I think a lot of people, like you said, digital seems to be the new in thing where everybody's looking at, right? Not discounting that digital is definitely a very important mix that we need to have within our marketing campaign. But I think traditional media, like whether it's a newspaper, billboard, cinema, radio, or TV, still has got its role to play, right? I think that role is basically getting your top funnel, your top marketing funnel as big as possible, so that your bottom funnel, which is your conversion and stuff like that, becomes bigger, right? You have more opportunities on that. So that being said, Amy, if you could put up slide number 8, I was going to talk about this as well. So we realized during the MCO, there's a lot of businesses that was going live on Facebook, right? Everybody was going live on their own Facebook to sell stuff. I want to throw this opportunity for the attendees that's here. Instead of going live on Facebook, why not go live on TV to sell a product? So exactly, we'll give you 5 minutes or 7 minutes to go on television to sell a product, and we promise it's going to be made really affordable. We'll use that clip and then we're going to put it on radio as well. So that's an offer that we will give you today, and it's called Tijara. All right, so that's Tijara. We've also got a solution for SMEs. So any businesses that's looking to advertise on any of Astro's platform, be it digital, radio, TV, we've got packages that we've made really, really affordable. We promise really affordable. So that's Tijara. So this SME 360. So we have those. For those of you who want more information, I think, Dino, you've made that packages available. Otherwise, on the next slide, that's my contact details. You've got an email. All right, you've got a website that you can also go to send in your queries. If you've got a query and if you've got a campaign that you'd like to brief us, we'll provide you free marketing consultation. We'll partner with IPG on this. All right, we'll customize the solution for you, and it's free of charge. Okay, so that's the offer we have for you today.
Thank you so much, Nick. So on that note, we've had a very, very healthy conversation, and there are lots of questions coming in, but then we don't have enough time to address each and every one of them. So I just want to say a very big thank you to Nicholas, to Riyad, and also to Bala. Apologies for the cats and also for the connectivity issues. I'm seeing the messages on the chat room. There are some people that apparently there are a lot of people who got disconnected and reconnecting again. Don't worry, there will be a recording of this that will be put up on our link website. So that's link.linc.astro1e.com. Go to the playbacks tab and you'll be able to watch this in totality. Also, go and make a quick phone call to your internet service providers, because I think everybody's at home today, so the system is
I think it's everyone's trying to get onto the internet.
Everybody's trying to get on. So go and check out the recording of this webinar, and also go and speak to your ISP and get them to sort things out for you. Now, tomorrow we've got another webinar. Again, it's about pivoting. So even teachers need to pivot. So tomorrow's session is going to be talking about bagi pelajar shop tip untuk merancangkan pembelajaran digital. How to make sure that your kids who are sitting at home do not get bored to death. So teachers need to play a role. Teachers are also content creators now, yeah? So we want to talk about that tomorrow, so please join us. And also, if you like this session, don't forget to give us 5 stars, because we want to give a lot more content like this. Do reach out to the speakers individually if you want to ask them questions yourself. I'm sure you'll be able to look them up on social media as well as on LinkedIn. Once again, Bala, Riyad, and Nick, thank you so much. Stay safe. And you've been with me, Dino Omar, on Astro 1E Link, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Stay safe.